One good thing about finding out that I had these larger fibroids causing trouble was that it made me aware that the reason I was not exercising as energetically, that the walks that I went on were taking longer and felt more exhausting. The reason that I couldn't push weight at the gym anymore, like for instance, if I go to use a leg press machine, I could no longer put my knees to my chest. It was just too painful, right? So the value of finding out that I had these larger fibroids was that I realized it wasn't that I had gotten lazy. It wasn't that I was getting old. It was that I was not well. Okay. And it sent me then on this spree of researching and finding out that actually fibroids are especially common among Black women. Just realizing that a lot of the discomfort, the fatigue, everything could have been a result of this constipation. Oh my God. Now, I had been taking iron supplements previously, and the iron I was taking was Ferromax. This was recommended to me previously because I had done like a complete blood work to just get everything checked a year ago because I felt as though something was wrong with me. And it was recommended that I do this full check, and the doctor had found that I had low ferritin, low neutrophils, all of this. Um, the low neutrophils was dismissed. Pretty much, a hematologist at the hospital said, "Oh, that's just benign ethnic neutropenia." She was pretty much saying, "Oh, it's common in Black people to have um, low neutrophils," and that got dismissed. But the doctor said for the low ferritin, I needed to take iron supplements, and he warned me. He said, "Iron is going to cause constipation, and it's going to cause your stool to be black." And I was prescribed Ferromax. Ferromax is high dosage iron, and I was told to take it every day for 90 days. It was the most uncomfortable 90 days of my life. Um, the thing about constipation on iron is that not only are you backed up, but also that stuff is painful to come out. And no matter how much water I drank or prunes I ate, it was just an absolutely miserable experience. Um, and so I stopped taking the Ferromax. But I realized that I still had some degree of constipation. It was not always, it was like sometimes here, sometimes not. And I started having trouble again with my bladder. So, like 3 years prior, my issue was with my bladder with frequency. It was found to be that the spices in my diet had been like sending false signals and causing me to go to the bathroom often. And so I cut the spices out of my diet. Um, but now I was back to having trouble with my bladder. This time it wasn't so much about frequency, but having discomfort when I needed to use the toilet. And I came then to learn that the fibroids actually can press on the bladder, it can press on the rectum and make bowel movements and bladder activity very uncomfortable. Um, and of course, then things like going for a walk became unpleasant because um, trying to walk around with a bladder that's not coping until you get back home, not fun, you know? Um, and I had read this book by Dr. Jackie Walters, who's like, she's an OBGYN in Atlanta. And she said that incontinence and problems with your bladder is very common, but it's not normal. And she said a lot of women dismiss it as aging, as part of being a woman. But the reality is that any problem that we have with our bladder is an indication that something is not right. And we need then to go to a doctor, whether it's a gynecologist, a urologist, a pelvic floor physiotherapist, somebody to figure out what's the problem. Um, And that was very helpful for me. Realizing also that my periods had changed. They were still regular, still on time, but they were heavier than before and also more painful and more draining. I would be exhausted. Like I would feel like life is leaving me. And that also was something that came out of having fibroids. Another symptom that I experienced with fibroids was sciatic pain. I previously, like during pandemic lockdown, I had terrible sciatica that was not fibroid related. That was just a result of working for long hours sitting at a desk. And I had gone to a physiotherapist and had treatment, and my sciatica had subsided. But then I realized in the last year or so, I would still have this niggling feeling in the same area. And I went back to the physiotherapist, and he said, well, that's strange that it has not completely gone away because it had been, quite a while. And I recently learned that the fibroids also can put pressure on the nerves in your legs and cause sciatic pain. And sometimes I had even, like the sciatic nerve is more to the side or to the back. I also had sometimes nerve pain shooting down the front of the same leg. So it was not fun. And then of course there was bloating. Because I had been exercising less, I made the assumption that I was just getting fat. And it was because my lifestyle had slowed down. I kept trying all kinds of different diets. I said, oh my gosh, like maybe my body can't process meat anymore because every time I eat meat, I end up in pain. And I stopped eating meat for a year, Um, but then I came to realization later that the problem was that anytime that I ate too much and I added more bulk to what was going on inside of me, my organs all cramped up in there, weren't coping very well. And that was also something that I had to come to terms with. Um, I actually recently learned that I also have adenomyosis, so that might play a part as well, but I don't really know what that part is.